Cara, hello. It has been too long. Welcome to 5 Curly Career Questions. Now, you and I we've never actually met in person, but we kind of met, I suppose, met, when in 2020 when we were doing our coach training. And so I didn't really know much about your background until now, really, because I was researching. And your background is very much in the educational space. And you started out as a lecturer before going into more sort of interim and consultant educational work, I suppose. You are an author of Calm Your Gut, and you are the co-founder of The Mindful Gut, where you are a coach and a speaker and an educational consultant. Is that right?
Yeah, and absolutely, we're one of those wonderful new groups of people that have met during lockdown, and we know each other really well because we shared a lot in the coaching space, but we've never actually met in real life.
Yeah, I have no idea how tall you are at all. So welcome. Are you ready for your 5 Curly Career Questions?
Helen, I'm ready and I'm excited to answer them.
Excellent. Okay, so your first one. Tell me about a time where you experienced a career transition, or maybe you were at a bit of a career junction and felt a bit stuck.
What so easily comes to mind is a period when I was actually unemployed for 7 weeks.
Okay.
So I left a big job, in inverted commas, where I had the really nice package. I had a really lovely big office, which was very important.
Yep.
I had everything. I had the holiday, the pension, and so in my 30s, I got quite senior working in colleges here in the UK, and I was doing well. But I knew that I had a longing to be more creative. I had a longing for a different kind of life.
Yeah.
In walked in an amazing mentor stroke coach. I worked with someone for about a year, Sarah Jane. She was incredible. And in that period, lots of things were bubbling up. And I bravely made the decision to leap. I call it my big life leap, my big work leap.
Nice.
And I was unemployed for 7 weeks, but it was probably the best 7 weeks of my life. I wrote a novel in that time, or drafted a novel in that time. Did a lot of cycling, a lot of creative practice, a lot of journaling. And then that led me into an interesting period of consultancy and interim management where I did a lot more traveling.
Cool.
So I went from really, really stuck to adventure.
Yeah, stuck and kind of having it all to adventure and having it all in a different way. Okay. Yeah. So you kind of touched on it a little bit, but second question, in what one way have your priorities changed sort of over time, I guess? In our 20s and 30s, certain things are important. And then as you get a bit older, different things are important. What one way have yours changed?
That feels like a really big question. And I think it's just about time. I think the big commodity, the most precious commodity we have is time. And actually going back to that life leap, I negotiated to work 4 days a week, which was huge. Going from full-time, very intensive, to working 4 days a week was like, wow, okay, this is life-changing. And then that idea of time being so precious, like time with, doing what you want to do if you can, doing work that you love, that you value, but also time with loved ones, time to do things that you care about, time, like, wow, it's like the big focus.
Yeah, that's a beautiful answer. Yeah, thank you. Okay, third question. What are a couple of maybe key resources or pieces of advice that you've had along the way?
Oh, I love this question. And there's obviously, as a coach, and especially a wellbeing coach, I'm like always working. There's so much inner work.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of a couple of people who I really find inspiring and things they've said that have really stayed with me. So there's a really interesting guy called Richard Tappinger. He's an American conscious marketeer. And he was talking about some advice, which actually I really need to be following right now, which is when you're on camera or when you're doing an event or when you're speaking to people, try to drop out of your head and get into your heart.
Okay, nice.
And it's like
Okay.
subtle energy shift, but it's like
Yeah.
something about where you're coming from. Are you coming from a really rational, intellectual way, or are you coming from a place of connection?
Mm.
And I think
Nice.
that's a really beautiful, really stayed with me. Like it's
Mm.
subtle, but
Yeah.
particularly now I do a lot of work as a speaker, I do a lot of work as not only as a coach, but as a retreat space holder. So
Yeah.
I'm often standing in front of groups of people and I'm thinking, where am I coming from? Where am I at? Am I in my head? Am I in my
Mm.
heart? And because of my love of gut health, I'm actually grounded in my gut.
Yeah.
So that's number
Nice.
one piece of
Yeah.
advice. Thank you, Richard. And this second beautiful tool, it's actually kind of more kind of a life tool and a piece of advice is
Mm.
from another person I find incredibly inspiring called Liz Gilbert. So you might know Liz Gilbert from Eat, Love, Pray, international
I
best-selling
do.
author, big,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing woman. Like
Yeah.
any listeners listen, who don't know her work, please, I encourage you.
Mm.
She's extraordinary, super inspiring, has done so much inner work.
Mm.
And one of her
Yeah, she is.
lifelong practices she's been doing for 20 years plus is a
Mm.
letter from love.
Okay.
And this is a journaling prompt. So in the morning, it's the idea she gets with her pen, she has some quiet time, and she writes a letter from love.
Mm.
Similar theme, like where are you starting your day? What's the energy you're
Yeah.
bringing into your day? What's the intention? And it's
Yeah.
beautiful. And it's not
Yeah.
a practice I do every day, but I do it regularly enough
Mm.
for it to feel like I'm connected to the best sense of what is driving, what's
Mm.
driving me, what's
Yeah.
how is it shaping what I do and how I am with people, the way that I
Yeah.
show up as a coach, as a speaker.
Super
So,
important. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's perfect. I do know Elizabeth Gilbert because one of her quotes is one of my favourite ones, which is "Embrace the glorious mess that you are." Love that. So thank you for that. Okay, question 4. As you didn't know, but you do now, I hate, loathe, and detest coriander. So when thinking about that, and it doesn't have to be as violent as hate, loathe, and detest, but what is it that makes you have those types of feelings in a professional context or a work setting? What would be your coriander equivalent?
Oh my goodness. The thing, I think it's really being over managed or over controlled.
Mm, okay.
So
Yeah.
I would say I'm a bit of a free spirit
Yeah.
and I'm a little bit of a secret rebel because I don't always look like it, but I'm actually quite rebellious. I'm a rule breaker. I actually call myself a fire starter because I love starting fires on retreats. Like I literally love going out and creating fires, and there's something about that element that I really love. So when I'm really contained or constrained, it brings out my rebellious streak, and I get
Okay.
really, and so actually it can be quite startling for people.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think but I think more widely, because that's quite personal to me, I think
That's
if
right.
we inhibit creativity, if we like create too many boxes
Mm.
to tick, too many like admin processes, too much noise, especially now where it's
Mm.
so easy to ping an email to somebody and it's just like this morass of information. And we're also time poor in so many
Yeah.
ways or information overloaded. I
Mm.
think it's disrespectful actually to treat other people with just like this massive list of things or this
Yeah.
huge load of information. You need to work out which bit is relevant to you.
Yeah.
So I
Nice.
think being respecting other people, like respecting our attention span
Yeah.
and allowing more creativity, more reciprocity, more flow.
Yeah.
And I'm
Not over
really aware,
managing.
as I say that, I'm really aware that certain jobs, if you're an accountant, you probably need a really clear
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be the be all and end all of everything's life. And if you're not in that box, then yeah, don't. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So like the
Okay.
box ticking, I
Yeah.
struggle. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my coriander
It's fair
equivalent.
enough. Fair enough. Okay, your fifth question. I lived in New Zealand for quite a long time, and one of the things that I picked up, it was in Maori culture, there is koha, which is a gift. So using that concept loosely, what koha would you give to somebody right now who's going through maybe a career transition or they're stuck at a bit of a career junction?
I would suggest that they really, in a really loving way, lean into that fear because stuckness is often a place of
Mm,
fear. And I know it because I was stuck, going back to my big leap at the beginning, I was stuck there for quite a long time before I made the move to leap. So I know it. And it's, you know, when you've been on the other side of it, you look back and go, oh, wow, I was stuck for maybe a couple of years there, maybe longer. But I would say is lean into that fear. But there's two flavors to fear. There's the fear that keeps you really small and safe.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of fear that's the one where we kind of just want to really look at what's going on. That's the inner work. And then there's the other kind of fear, which is we're just at the edge of something really exciting. Like we're playing at the edge of like, this is not known. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And that part, like that bigger kind of fear, that's the one where like, it's like a key. It can open so many opportunities.
Lean into it.
Yeah. Like, and it's like which fear are you listening to? Like the small one that wants to keep you really safe and that often keeps you stuck.
Yeah.
The other one, which is like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Something could really shift. Oh my goodness, if I can lean in and embrace this, goodness knows what will happen.
That is a very cool gift. Thank you for that. Okay, before I lose my voice completely by the sound of things, the mystery question. That was the end of your 5 curly career questions, but the mystery question, as you know, this was something that was left by a previous guest. It's a concept that I borrowed from Stephen Bartlett. So your question is, do you consider yourself lucky?
Ooh. I would say yes.
There's no right or wrong.
I would say yes to the degree that, I mean, there's so many ways you could take that question.
Yeah.
I'm right, what are you thinking about? There's so many ways. I mean, like, you know, we live in a country where we have so much choice. You know, I know I'm speaking to you and you're in lovely Spain, but, you know, here in the UK, actually, you know, we're pretty lucky. We're pretty lucky to be here, just to wake up in the morning and have clean running water and heating and all the malarkey, you know, computers, lights, everything. So that part, yes. And then I'm almost kind of, because it's Steve's thing, Steve Bartlett. I know a little bit about him. I think he's amazing.
He is, of course.
His podcasts. And I wonder whether there's also something, knowing a little bit about his story, about also your own intention, your own, whatever the circumstances, what you do with those, you know, with whatever life deals you. I feel very grateful for the life that I've had, and even the difficult stuff, I can look back and go, wow, there was so much growth in there. You can't see it at the time. You can't. No, you can't. No, you can't see it at the time. But I think even the tough bosses or the difficult situations, I would say lots of learning, but it's like a mindset thing, isn't it?
Yeah. You go with your gut, don't you? And that's what your first thought was. You're lucky.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cara. It has been my pleasure talking to you. You will be leaving a question for another guest, but thank you very much.
Amazing. It's been lovely to talk to you, Helen, and I hope all our listeners enjoy that.
I hope so too.